Let's give our praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the elders of GMS, who taught us this truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, who would be the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, according to scripture and prophecy. The elect will be 1/3 of the Israelites, who in the last days will return back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai for salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't seek the Lord in time be destroyed with America. And that's all according to prophecy. We back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. This lesson is going to be titled Democratic Traitors and White Sympathizers Will Be Rounded Up and Eliminated for the New World Order. Democratic traitors and white sympathizers will be rounded up and eliminated for the New World Order. And the times we in the transition to the New World Order. Well, in the midst of that transition, a lot of you white people, so-called white people who are Edomites, you're going to be rounded up and eliminated. Because it's well known that the U.S. government is going to come down on the 12 tribes, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and they're going to try to wipe us off the face of the earth. That's Psalms 83. They're going to come down full force with their military and try to exterminate us as we transition into this new world order. And white people, y'all think y'all are safe. But what y'all going to find out, a good portion of y'all going to be eliminated as well. So as they eliminating so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, which the Lord is going to let the white man eliminate 2/3 of our people, a lot of you white people going to be eliminated too. And we're going to explain why. And that's because y'all the wicked. Your world leaders, from the elite bankers all the way down to Trump, to the U.S. government, they wicked. And when they come through like a flood, trying to eliminate our people, they go eliminate a good portion of you white people too. Because what you got to understand is they got a depopulation agenda. You know about the Georgia Guidestones. So you, as a so-called white person, if you're not down with the New World Order and with these, which the New World Order is the New White Order. NWO, New World Order, New White Order. And if you're not down with the NWO and what these rich white people are doing, you're gonna be eliminated. They got no need for you, no use for you. So a lot of you white people think y'all safe. Y'all about to be eliminated and exterminated as well. And we're gonna explain how and why. And it don't matter your position. It don't matter what you've done for the country. It don't matter how good of a report you got. All the good that you've done in America. If you're not down with the New World Order and what they require, they're going to eliminate you. So we're going to start with this first video because the lesson is titled Democratic Traitors and White Sympathizers Will Be Rounded Up and Eliminated. So we're going to start with this video that's going to define Democratic traitors. What makes you a Democratic traitor? Let's see. And you see this video is titled, Trump accuses some Democrats of seditious behavior, suggests execution. So pretty much if you're not down with Trump, no matter if you're part of the government, no matter if you're part of the military, he wants to eliminate you. So let's check this out.
The White House defending this post by President Trump, calling several Democrats traitors and accusing them of, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death.
So what makes you a traitor in the eyes of Trump? Let's find out.
And taking issue with this video posted on social media.
Pay attention. There's going to be a lot of military and intelligence officers pretty much who's refusing orders from Trump. They refusing to go into different U.S. cities. They refuse to go to different U.S. cities and to pretty much harass American citizens. That's what makes you a traitor. But let's show it.
Captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy. Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
Those Democratic lawmakers, all veterans of the military, are U.S. intelligence, delivering this message to service members that they should not obey illegal orders, insisting the administration is pitting our military against American citizens.
Yeah, so all these people who are once part of the military or some kind of intelligence agency pretty much got a problem with how Trump is sending in ICE, the National Guard, and the military into these different cities, pretty much coming against the people. Because they said they would get out illegal immigrant criminals. They messing with people who's making America great. Mexicans with jobs. Now they're harassing so-called Negroes, which is really the 12 tribes. But that's what makes you a traitor in his eyes, that if you don't follow his orders.
Laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
Because ICE sending the military, ICE and the National Guard into these U.S. cities to come against the U.S. citizens is against the Constitution. It's violating all kind of rights, all kind of policies that's been set up. And in a lot of America, white America, they're not going for it. They turn it against Trump. And when you turn against Trump and you don't do what he tell you to do, if you're not down with what he's doing, he views you as a traitor and says you should be executed.
Then taking to social media, calling for the Democrats to be arrested and put on trial.
And these people who don't follow Trump's orders, whether they the military, the government, some kind of intelligence agency, they will be arrested. That's going into the King Alfred plan, codenamed Rex84. We got the documents and we're going to show it. That when they come down and start snatching up and rounding up our people, the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, a lot of you white people who didn't side with Trump, who didn't obey his orders, y'all going to be rounded up with us. And when they start exterminating 2/3 of our people, a lot of you white people are going to be exterminated as well.
Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Adding an example must be set. Trump reposting several other accounts, including one saying, "Hang them, George Washington would," setting off a firestorm on
So yeah, that's what makes you a Democratic traitor. Now let's go back real quick.
The president taking issue with this video posted on social media.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
Those Democratic lawmakers, all veterans of the military, are U.S. intelligence, delivering this message to service members that they should not obey illegal orders, insisting the administration is pitting our military against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
The president then taking to social media, calling for the Democrats to be arrested and put on trial, saying their words cannot be allowed to stand. Adding an example must be set.
So he says Democratic traitors, but it's not limited to them either. There's a lot of Republicans who's not down with what Trump is doing. There's a lot of Republicans who gonna turn against Trump. The same goes for them as well. So now we know what it means to be a traitor. Hey, whether you're Democratic, whether you're Republican, whether you worked in the military or some kind of politician in the government or some kind of intelligence officer. If you don't obey what Trump is doing, you're gonna be rounded up and eliminated. And the law and the Constitution is not going to protect you, because transitioning to this new world order, especially when we under martial law, Insurrection Act, the Constitution And the law not gonna stand. So we identified the traitors. Now let's get some more on this, because this is following this right here. Now let's check this video out. Because you know Trump and Pete, they had a big meeting with all of the top military generals from across the world a couple months ago. And after that, a lot of them quit. And also, a lot of them he fired. So we're going to show this video real quick. So here you're going to see a list of people from the military that Trump fired. And then we're going to show the video of why they got fired and why a bunch of people quit after that meeting. Hold on.
Guess what? I use my VPN and I stay on top of what the fuck is really going on in America so that you don't have to. But if you need to, go fact check my shit, okay? Especially before you come in my comments and ask stupid questions or make stupid ass comments. Here we go. Trump has fired the Navy Chief of Staff, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the head of the Navy SEALs, the Naval Operations Chief, the U.S. Naval Reserve Chief, the head of the U.S. Cyber Command, not like we need his motherfucking ass, the head of the U.S. Cyber Command, the head of the Defensive Intelligence, the Coast Guard Commandant, the Air Force Chief of Staff, the Air Force Vice Chief of Staff, the top of AF Global Strike Command, the top legal officer of the Air Force, the top legal officer of the Army, are y'all seeing a trend? And the top legal officer of the Navy, and the top legal official of the CIA. Did you see that on the news today? Bet you didn't. But here.
So a lot of these people, they the chairman, they the chief, top legal officer. So pretty much he's getting rid of the leadership in the military, which most people who serve in the military, they uphold the Constitution and take it very seriously. Because the Constitution, that's the law of the land. Not what the president say. But you see, he's getting rid of the leadership in the military. And let's show why he fired these people. Let's show why a bunch of military people quit. These people that he fired, they're going to be rounded up and eliminated when they come after the 12 tribes. The Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. The other video, all these people saying they don't have to follow illegal orders, they're going to be rounded up and eliminated under martial law. So let's show why these people quit. Let's show why Trump fired these people. Let's show why they are saying you must not follow illegal orders. So let's go to this video here. And we're going to show bits and pieces of that meeting.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. We are done with that shit. The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings.
He said being politically correct. Politic goes into policy. So being politically correct, meaning the military is no more going to be bound by the Constitution. You know, the Constitution is no more going to govern the U.S. military. That Trump and Pete and whoever Trump set up, they're going to govern the U.S. military. And they can make the U.S. military do whatever they feel, whether it's legal or not, no matter if it's unconstitutional or not. That's why he said no more politically correct. They don't got to play by the rules no more.
Leadership ends right now.
See that? He said leadership ends right now.
Let's talk about...
Damn, I can't.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. We are done with that shit. The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. At every level, either you can meet the standard, either you can do the job, either you are disciplined, fit, and trained, or you are out. Each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level, we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Because war does not care if you're a man or a woman. Neither does the enemy. Nor does the weight of your rucksack, the size of an artillery round, or the body weight of a casualty on the battlefield who must be carried. This is not about preventing women from serving. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. Personnel is policy. But I look out at this group and I see great Americans. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors. In name, in...
So that's why they say, you know, if you don't like what he's saying, you should pretty much quit. Now, the speech don't sound too bad right now, because it's pretty much highlights. But when you go back and watch the actual speech, it was really embarrassing how he was speaking to the U.S. military. Real embarrassing. Pretty much talking down on them. But pretty much he said, you know, the era of being politically correct, that's over. But that's why all these people quit. That's why all these people got fired. That's why all these people are saying you must not, you must disobey illegal orders. That was all after this meeting. Why? Because Trump and Pete, the U.S. government, want to see who's down to obey the orders no matter what they are. No matter if they go against the Constitution. No matter if it's against U.S. citizens. That's what this was all about. Now, we're going to bring this into the King Alfred plan, codename Rex84. We're going to show how all this fit together. Why all these military people quitting, why so many of them getting fired. You know, why you got these changes in the U.S. military, which is now called the Department of War. God damn. So we're going to get some of this. We're going to jump around. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, under the King Alfred plan, the nation has been divided into 10 regions in case of emergency. Minority members, the 12 tribes, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans will be evacuated from the cities. What's being evacuated? That's you being deported. That's you being through in what they call a FEMA detention center, which is a FEMA death camp. Again, minority members will be evacuated or deported from the cities by federalized National Guard units, and that's ICE. Local and state police, if necessary, by units of the regular armed forces using public and military transportation, and detained in nearby military installations until further course of action has been decided. So this is really already happening. And then your 10 FEMA regions, this is where you get your zip codes from. The United States is divided into 10 parts. But again, minority members, the 12 tribes, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, they already being evacuated. They already being deported by federalized National Guard units, which will be ICE. So we see the setup here that it's already happening. There are 12 major minority organizations, and are all familiar to the 22 million. Those diaries have compiled on the leaders of the organizations can be studied at Washington. Goes on to say, all organizations and their leaders are under constant 24-hour surveillance. And this tells you the 12 minority organizations that's under 24-hour constant surveillance. Now, this truth, this ministry, I'm not sure which one this will go under. But we in here somewhere too. We on the watch list too, under 24-hour surveillance. At the appropriate time to be designated by the president, who is now Trump, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it's clear that they cannot prevent the emergency, such as a race war, a race riot. The Department of Defense, which is now called the Department of War, okay, let's see. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chief of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people. Because the so-called Negroes, Latinos, we greatly outnumber Esau Edom, the so-called white man. He says we the minority, but that's a lie. We the majority. It says with a desperate and dangerous will. And the minority will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. The Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. It knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, Great Lakes region, and the West Coast. And as we go down, it says, this is an event of a race war, what we reading. Which is why they detaining all these so-called, Mexicans, Guatemalans, and Venezuelans, trying to get them off the street because they outnumbered. Esau the white man is outnumbered. It says an estimated 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage the minority during an emergency. Cold words, 40 to 50% of so-called white people who are Edomites, when it's a race war, a race riot, a civil war, they're not going to engage, they're not going to fight against the minorities. They're not going to fight against Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And again, says for various reasons. Maybe they side with the Negroes, they side with so-called Latinos, whether they married one or got kids with one, or look at them like family, or for any other reason. Or they don't agree with Trump is doing. And it's bigger than Trump, the U.S. in general. But again, 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, fight against minorities during an emergency. And that's a race war. But you see, that's a cause for concern, which is why they mentioned it. Goes on to say, armed forces are spread around the world. A breakout of war, that civil war in America, a breakout of war abroad means fewer troops at home to handle the emergency. That's a civil war, a race war. Local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, though it may mean fighting a superior force. That's how you know we're not the minority, but we're the majority. We that superior force by number. New York City, for example, has 25,000 man police force, but there are about 1 million minority members in the city. So you see, this is an event of a race war. We are confident that the minority will hold any city it took for only a few hours. So so-called democratic, so-called black cities, y'all might hold the city down for a few hours, but they say the lack of weapons, facilities, logistics, all the minority will put all minority at a final disadvantage. So you may get a strong start in the race war, but it won't last. Since the Korean War, this department has shifted minority members of the armed forces to areas where combat is most likely to occur, with the aim of eliminating through combat as many combat-trained military servicemen as possible. Let's get this last part. Below is a timetable for the King Alfred, as tentatively suggested by the JCS, who recommended that the operation may be made over a period of 8 hours. So I'm guessing the event, the martial law is declared, or leading up to it, they got a timetable for 8 hours. The first hour, local police and minority members in action to head off the emergency. So the local police and minority leaders. So that's why you got Jesse Jackass, Al Sharpton. He's a puppet. They're going to use him to try to calm down our people. Part 2, countdown to 8 hours begin at the moment the president determines the emergency to be national, coordinated, and of long duration. Pretty much a race war or all hell breaking loose. The county police will join the local police. That's the 7th hour. State police will join county and local police. 6th hour. Federal marshals join state, county, and local forces. That's why you got Trump sending the National Guard and the military to these different cities and states that have them already in place to join forces. Now we get into the point. National Guards federalized, and we see Trump doing that in certain cities and states. Like I know he did that in what was it? I think it might have been California or Washington, maybe Washington D.C. He federalized the National Guard. Regular armed forces alerted, take up positions. Minority troops divided and detained. If you a so-called Negro, Latino, Native American in the military, you're going to be snatched up first, along with all white sympathizers under guard. And that's why I titled the lesson, Democratic Traitors and White Sympathizers will be rounded up and eliminated. But yeah, white sympathizers will be eliminated. Democratic traitors will be eliminated. We got the traitors. Pretty much anybody who's going to disobey Trump's orders when it comes to going in these different cities and going after American citizens based off race and ethnicity. That makes you a traitor. Now, what's a white sympathizer? Got a screenshot right here. Damn, bro. What the fuck? The term white sympathizer can refer to a white person who supports or aligns with the interests of another racial group, such as by supporting political causes that advance black interests. See that? In some contexts, a white sympathizer is a white person who supports political efforts, candidates, policies, or social movements that are perceived to advance the interests of black people. So back to the King Alfred playing Rex84, minority troops will be divided and detained. That goes for minority police officers as well. You're going to be divided and detained along with white sympathizers. But that's why going up it said 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage minorities during an emergency. Meaning at least half the white people not going to engage us in the Civil War. They're not going to fight against us. So you can assume that 40 to 50% of the white people, according to the King Alfred plan, are going to fight alongside minorities. They're going to fight against white supremacy. They're going to fight against the federal government and whatever Trump and the U.S. government is doing. But that's why white sympathizers will be rounded up and eliminated. Now, I meant to get this. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority, men, women, and children. And it's a lot more of us than 22 million. But again, 40 to 50% of white people, they're not going to engage us in a race war. So you can speculate and assume they're going to fight on our side in the event of a race war. That's why it says, for once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of the American society. And who's that minority threat? So-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But who's also part of that minority threat? Well, it would be the white sympathizers. So-called white people, Edomites, who are going to side with black people, whether it's through advancing black interests. Those who's not going to fight against us in the Civil War. Y'all part of that minority threat that's going to be eliminated, so-called white people. But that's why Pete and Trump had this meeting with the top generals across the world to see who's really down to ride with Trump and the New World Order is about, or who's going to side with the Constitution and try to play it by the rules. And those who decided they want to play by the rules, Trump fired them. A lot of them quit. A lot of them telling you must disobey illegal orders or they're going to be rounded up and detained. So now we're going to get into the scriptures. Damn. Anyways, so this is the book of Exodus 1 and 8. Bear with me one moment. I'm trying to make this smaller. Okay, anyways, so you see, it said that 40 to 50% will not engage the minority during an emergency. And you got where it says here, there will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into a street a superior number of people. So we outnumber Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the 12 tribes. But that's why you get this in the book of Exodus 1 and 8. It says, now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Now what's America? America is spiritual Egypt. That's why the pyramid is on the back of the dollar. So what we about to read that happened in ancient Egypt is happening in this new spiritual Egypt, which is America. The Egyptians, they oppressed the Israelites. Just like the modern day Egyptians, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, oppress us today. And just like the days of ancient Egypt, we are more and mightier than our oppressors. We outnumbered them. It's even in the King Alfred plan. They told you that we'll be able to put up a superior number of people. And that's why when we continue to read, it says, Pharaoh said, come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And when it come to pass, that when they're fought without any war, they join also into our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land. So Pharaoh was like, we got to get these people out the land somehow. We got to decrease their numbers somehow. Just in case that there's any war and the children of Israel side against Egypt's enemies. And that's the fear in America right now. Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, we outnumber the white man. But guess who else you got here? All these Chinese people, all these Arabs, all these Asian people, all these Africans, all these other people, you know, whose country is the enemy to America. Arabs, Indians, all these people who enemies to America. Now that's why Trump is starting with the Northern Kingdom, going around and trying to do what? Get them up out of the land. He's trying to deport them. And that's part of the King Alfred plan. Because what did it say? Let me see if I can get to it real quick. Minority members will be evacuated from the cities by federalized National Guard units. That's getting them up out of the land. That's why they're being deported. And that's why they want to use ICE to come after so-called black people, claiming we commit most of the crime to do what? To evacuate us out of the land. Get us off the street and to put us in these FEMA death camps. To what? To decrease our numbers. So that what? In the event of a civil war, instead of them being outnumbered, we would be outnumbered. So that's what's going on now with ICE. They trying to decrease the number of our people on the streets by sending them out of the country or putting them in the FEMA death camp. Because a race war, civil war is coming. And then the fear also, when you come back to the King Alfred plan, also known as Rex84, 40 to 50% of white people, they're not going to fight against us in the civil war. It's what they guessing. And if they're not going to fight against us, they may fight on our side. So the white man is trying to prepare for that. Which is why he said what? Minority troops, military and law enforcement, police officers, along with white sympathizers, they're going to be rounded up and detained. So he saw the white man fear that all these so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in America, along with all the Chinese, Arabs, East Indians, Chinese, Japanese, maybe some Russians, maybe some Africans. And guess what? 40 to 50% of his own people may fight on our side against the white man, against the white supremacy, you know, in the Civil War. Which is why Democratic traitors and white sympathizers gonna be rounded up and eliminated. Because they know a civil war is coming. And that's Exodus 19:2. I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. They shall fight, everyone against his brother, everyone against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. So Esau the white man is preparing for that. Damn, why can't I make this? So yeah, Egyptian against Egyptian. So the race war is not going to be just black versus white. Because the Egyptians, they represent the white man first, because it's a spiritual Egypt. So he will sit the Egyptians against the Egyptians. So that's why they're going to come after all white sympathizers. That's why they keep in count of, you know, the white population. Those who pretty much going to side with the so-called black people. those who's not going to engage us in a race war. They're going to be rounded up and detained. They know a race war is coming, so they trying to keep count of who might fight against the New World Order, who's going to fight against white supremacy, who's going to help the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And Esau the white man, he's speculating that 40 to 50% of his own people going to turn against him in a race war, a civil war in America. And this is the book of Psalms 55 and 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. So it don't matter if you a citizen. It don't matter if you was in the military, some kind of intelligence officer. It don't matter if you work in the government. It don't matter if you a law-abiding citizen. He's going to break his covenant, his agreement, his treaty. You know, whatever kind of deal or covenant that you had with America and the U.S. government, or just being a good U.S. citizen. He's going to treat you like the enemy. Even you so-called white people, people who did nothing wrong. If you're not down with the New World Order, which is the new white order, he's going to send his military after you. That's why I say he hath put forth his hands against such as be with peace with him. All them intelligence officers and military people that got fired or quit, they quit peacefully. They not trying to fight against the U.S. government. They just quit. Well, guess what? All that they did for the country not going to be remembered. Esau going to come after them too. Now, and this is why when you get this in the book of Isaiah 13 and 15, everyone that is found shall be thrust through. That's the wicked. And everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. So everybody that's joined to the wicked, they're going to fall by the sword. So in the eyes of the Lord, if you as an Israelite, so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, want to join forces with the white man, or you want to side with the white man, you want to save him for some reason, you're going to die with him. Guess what? Esau, the so-called white man, he's going to use the same logic. He's going to try to put down the children of Israel by the sword. He's going to try to put down all Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans by the sword. But every one of you Edomites that is joined unto them, you Edomites, you white sympathizers that want to side with the 12 tribes, or you just against the New World Order, you against white supremacy. When Esau the white man come like a flood to put down our people, he gonna put y'all down as well for not getting down with the New World Order. So the Lord is gonna use this in judgment, but the white man is gonna follow the same logic. You're either with them or you against them. And this is the book of Sirach, chapter 14, verse 5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he's going to eliminate a lot of his own people for not fighting against white supremacy, for not fighting against the 12 tribes in a race war, for not engaging us in battle. Some for siding with us, and those who quit the military, or they got fired, or they disobeying orders from the president. He's going to put them to death. That's why the scriptures say, he does evil to himself, to whom will he be good? So Trump going to put this many of his people to death. Talk about hanging them for disobeying orders, for telling others to refuse illegal orders, or if they quit or got fired. If you're going to put them to death, what do the 12 tribes think y'all got coming? But yeah, that's pretty much the lesson, showing that so-called white sympathizers, Democratic and Republican traitors, they're going to be rounded up and eliminated. Why? Because Esau the white man, Trump, the U.S. government, they fear that you may side what they call minority groups. Because we already a superior force by number. Now, if you got this many white people that may join our side in a race war, they got to eliminate you. So you so-called white people about to find out y'all already the wicked. The devil go show himself. Devil gonna come after his own people. So what it does informative. Till next time, Shalom.